June 9th to the 15th features two very important cosmic events, Jupiter entering Cancer for a full year and a square between Jupiter and Saturn. With mostly squares, 90-degree angles, it could be a bit of a challenging week. Disruptions could occur, highlighting issues we may want to run away from, yet need to face and resolve. What else can we expect? This is what we shall find out here today. Good morning, bonjour, Michelle Karen, astrologer shaman. Welcome to my channel dedicated to the practical uses of astrology to lead a better life. Monday, June the 9th, three squares, Mercury with Saturn and Neptune, as well as Venus with Pluto. So first, Mercury square Saturn. This is a very good day for any work requiring heavy mental focus, high critical faculties, and disciplined thinking. Not so good though for signing legal papers, business transactions, or negotiations. Communication tends to be restricted. We could feel pessimistic, anxious, and maybe a little withdrawn. We tend to be concerned with unimportant details, caught up in monotony, and overwhelmed by difficult problems. Our imagination is rather limited, so this is not a good transit for any task requiring creativity. A certain narrowness of vision, anticipation of failure, and fear of change could limit our scope of action. It is recommended that we keep our opinions to ourselves, as communications tend to be awkward and misunderstandings could occur very easily. Getting absorbed in an all-consuming work, strictly respecting law and order and focusing on practicalities is encouraged. Estrangement, particularly from friends, siblings, cousins, neighbors, could result from excessive suspicion and worry, prejudiced views, and possible jealousy. We could get tied up in tedious meetings and miss an appointment we were really looking forward to. This day is best used keeping ourselves to ourselves, observing a rigid routine, clearing our desk of backlogged work, and making solid plans for the future. Also, on Monday, June the 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer for a full year until June the 30th, 2026. Because this cycle will last 12 months, almost 13, I have recorded a whole video on it, which I invite you to watch. Link in the description box down below. Still, on Monday, June the 9th, Venus is square Pluto. Relationships in general could be fraught with difficulties. If we are single, we are likely to feel a deep desire to be loved and a profound longing for companionship. We may fall under the sexual spell of someone with whom there is no real overall compatibility. That person could use subversive techniques, be manipulative, compulsive, obsessive, lustful, destructive, and even degrading. But on the good side, that fascination will change our consciousness of what we truly need in a relationship at a very deep level. If we are ready in a relationship, things are likely to become quite intense. Our emotions could be stirred up by a crisis. Tensions, resentments that had been brewing under the surface could erupt. Emotional challenges from the past could be brought up, needing to be faced, resolved, and released. Issues around isolation, jealousy, sexuality, possessiveness, and control are likely to emerge. Conflicts could arise also in family relationships. Even our social life could feel a little unfulfilling. Friends might prove uncooperative and difficult. Ultimatums, pushing for a commitment, not advised. We need to compromise for the sake of unity and may be required to bend over backwards to maintain peace. To relate effectively, we may have to put ourselves at other people's level and make a real effort to work through the obstacles that present themselves. With this transit, deception and dishonesty only lead to a downfall. The best is to lie low, develop a certain emotional detachment, carefully examine our motives and be super honest with ourselves and others. So, here's a question. Can we change what is no longer working? And if we cannot, can we live with the situation as it is? Or is it time to move on? Hanging on just out of fear of insecurity or the unknown is not advised at all. The time may have come for a relationship that had been unstable and restrictive for a while to end. On the other hand, once the air has been cleared of old emotional problems, a good relationship will start anew on a much sounder basis and become stronger and deeper. On the money side of things, we may need to be careful of shady financial involvements. And also on Monday, June the 9th, this is really a loaded way to start the week. Mercury is square Neptune. Today, our energy is rather low and we are not exactly clear-minded. We could feel dreamy and decisive and somewhat impractical. A lack of self-confidence, discouragement, little common sense, and a certain weakness of character could lead to unrealistic goals. Our perception of ourselves and our external reality could be distorted by our overactive imagination, attracting both confusion and deceit. We tend to want to avoid responsibilities, may shy away from direct confrontations, and could feel inadequate. Falling prey to fraudulent financial speculations, getting entangled in other people's emotional dramas, and overindulging in drugs or alcohol are, of course, more than ever ill-advised. Best to lay low today, rest, stay humble, choose peace, watch a feel-good movie, write, paint, or listen to music. A wonderful day for quiet contemplation, especially by a body of water, a lake, a river, an ocean, a sea, if we can. Wednesday, June the 11th, Mercury is sextile Venus, a softer day that invites us to be relaxed, rest, and enjoy the nice things of life. Great for a little vacation. We feel cheerful, lighthearted, graceful, charming, refined, and calm, and are in touch with our feelings. Our appreciation of beauty and culture is enhanced, and we seek leisurely pursuits. This transit is wonderful for reading, singing, listening to music, and any creative endeavor such as craft work, as well as designing clothes or jewelry. Great also for a nice drive through the countryside or visiting an art gallery. We say what we have to say nicely, with great consideration and respect. Relationships are maybe a little superficial and casual, but they are pleasant and peaceful. Perfect for a nice gathering with friends, also a very good day for a date or a love affair. We find the right words to express our true feelings very easily and very elegantly. Sunday, June the 15th, two squares again, Mars with Uranus and Jupiter with Saturn. First, Mars square Uranus, unexpected conditions and somewhat hectic situations could lead to nervous tension, stress, erratic behaviors, and hasty changes. Our inability to be satisfied, our strong will, the overstimulation of our energy both disrupt and test our lifestyle. Explosive restlessness, impatience, recklessness, temper tantrums, rage, fury, impulsive actions, even violence make the risk of accidents very real today. We should be careful when driving. Beware of sharp metallic objects, knives, guns, explosives, and be extra cautious around any kind of machinery, particularly electrical or mechanical appliances. Our fighting spirit, the urge to assert our independence and find freedom, a voracious craving for excitement, a great resentment against routine, especially one that has become stale, and the strong rejection of any kind of interference and restriction trigger our eccentric streak, make us actively rebel against authority figures and drastically overthrow the existing order. We may be somewhat intolerant, contradicting, argumentative and eccentric. Prone to thrill-seeking activities, we are drawn to unusual, risky experiences. However, dangerous sports are not really advised today. We may want to exercise some self-control in order to implement the changes we need in a constructive way. And finally, also on Sunday, June the 15th, Jupiter squares Saturn, which is a very important transit that will last about 2 weeks. Changes are in the air. Family issues could feel a little oppressive and limit our freedom. Business and finances could be a cause of stress. We could be faced with unexpected bills or be required to take care of a loved one. We could also suffer from a lack of professional opportunities, and our long-term planning is likely to be somewhat insufficient. Because of a low sense of self-esteem, we could be reluctant to take responsibilities, or on the contrary, could be so overconfident, self-indulgent, and ambitious that we find that the price to pay is rather heavy. Plagued by a certain feeling of restlessness and uncertainty, the advice of others is not really helpful. Even though we are not quite sure what is wrong and whether or not to move ahead or stay put, something definitely feels off. It may become obvious that we have become slaves to a dull routine and need to walk away from familiar circumstances. Despite setbacks, disappointments, a tendency to be a little bit at the wrong place at the wrong time, and restrictions on our natural expansiveness due to a difficulty to recognize our own limitations, we remain inexplicably optimistic. We are required to reassess people and situations in our life as well as our moral standards. Persevering through obstacles with cheerful dignity, accepting people and situations with tolerance, being law-abiding, and taking the middle road between our need for security and our longing for freedom bring positive results. The work we tackle with discipline and enthusiasm ends up being very productive. If we manage to demonstrate patience and serenity, remain careful with our finances, and change, if we can, a boring job for an activity that releases us from limitations, what we start today, even though it will take time, effort, and organization to develop, in the long run will be very beneficial. The decisions we make now have a very big impact on our future. If you are already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. Your comments are always appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to place a thumbs up and hit the little bell to be notified when I upload a new video every Thursday and sometimes another one during the week. Remember, as always, choose your battles, walk in beauty. Thank you for watching. Until next time.